So what does it take to write a book? What's really involved in the steps? And what are some of the lessons that you take away from it that can help you to move on to the next one? Hey, everybody, I'm Ricky Heller from rickyheller.com. I'm a writer, an editor, and a book coach, and I help you to tap into the writer inside of you so that you can find your authentic voice and share your message and get your book out into the world. So today I want to talk about, we're on part three of how I wrote my books, and I'm going to talk about my third book, which is Naturally Sweet and Gluten-Free. And I will say, out of all the books I wrote, this is the one that visually I love the most. This was a cookbook. So if you've been following along, you know that I self-published my first cookbook, which was called Sweet Freedom, and it caught the eye of Ellen DeGeneres, which allowed me to have some visibility. And as a result of that, I started reaching out to various literary agents to see if there was anyone who would represent me with that book, because I had heard about other authors who had self-published and their books had done well. My book had done very well. And then they were given contracts with publishers and had a sort of like a reprint or a second edition of that book with the publisher. In my case, I was sort of thinking we would do Sweet Freedom, but by the time I was working on this third book, my own diet had changed and I was gluten-free and sugar-free. And so we decided that we were going to revamp the recipes to make them gluten-free and sugar-free, and that it would become a whole new book. So that's how Naturally Sweet and Gluten-Free was born. And in terms of the content, it's really sort of like a book of desserts and baked goods for people who are on the maintenance of an anti-candida diet. But so what happened here was my agent then, I learned what it was like to work with an agent. And what that meant is the person who represents you, your agent, is the one who then takes your proposal, your summary of your book, and all the information that you have to share to various publishers. So there's kind of like an auction that goes on, or a bidding war if you're lucky. In my case, we had a few different publishers interested in the book. I decided to go with Sellers, is the name of the publisher. They're a small publisher in Maine, in the US, because they had so much experience with photography and beautiful books. They were really well known for their coffee table books. And so that's one of the things you want to consider if you're working with a publisher. Where are they going to focus in terms of what they are interested in terms of the content and the look of the book, and then of course distribution, all those things you want to ask about that as well. But in this case, because it was a cookbook, because there were photographs involved, I knew I wanted a publisher that was going to really pay attention to the quality. And so I really did get that with this book. I hired a photographer, someone that I knew here in the Toronto area. And just as it worked out, she was on a very tight schedule. So we only had 4 days to photograph 60 photos for the book. So what ended up happening, and this was a great learning experience for me too, what ended up happening was I sort of became the stylist for these photos. I prepared all of the baked goods, all of the food in advance. I selected all of the dishes and the linens and the sort of setup of the pictures. And I even set some stuff up before she came so that we could jump right into it. And then we went bang, 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 bang. We had about one day we had about a 14-hour day, 16-hour day. I think on the very verge of things, it was around 16 hours. She literally got here in the morning and left when it was time for sleep. So we worked our buns off during those 4 days, but we got some beautiful photography. And as you can see, I mean, the cover itself, I think, is a beautiful photo, but I just picked a few of my favorites here that I'm going to share with you. So just to show you what I mean when I talk about the photography. So this was the other cupcake picture. So as I was saying, these are my dishes. I set up the picture and she did the photography. In some cases, because she had so much more experience than I did, she ended up tweaking my setup in some cases to make it, to just elevated it to a level that I probably couldn't have imagined by myself. This is a beautiful photo of pecan pie, and you can see all of the beautiful dishes and silverware in the back. And I'm just going to show you one more that I just sort of picked here at random when I was flipping through the book, just some of my favorite photos. See if I can get this one to open here. And one of the things I learned by working with her about this is that you can actually get so much done in a short period of time if you really want to. So this was shortbread cookies. It's a holiday themed uh, picture. And she was just amazing at being able to focus in on the food and show the importance of the food. So I absolutely love the way this book looks. The other thing that was great working with a professional publisher is, of course, the level of the work. So everything was scheduled in advance. We had deadlines. I had to meet the deadlines. And that's why doing those photos was so important because we had to get the photos in to the publisher by a certain time period and so on. So that's something that if you're working with the publisher, you want to be aware of. They're going to set the deadlines for you and you must meet those deadlines. And if you don't, I mean, you're really risking either having to return, maybe some of your advance, whatever your contract is with your publisher. But they have specific times of year that they have to publish these books. So if you don't make it for that first deadline, you may have to wait another year till your book comes out. Or they may cancel the contract. It just depends on what the arrangement is with your publisher. So in working with this book, I really learned that how much I was capable of in a very short period of time. If you're working on your own and you're writing a book without somebody else to kind of keep you accountable, then you can let it stretch out to years and years. I've met clients who told me they've been working on their book for 10 years. And it's not because they needed more information or because they had to wait until something happened in order to be able to write about it. It was because they didn't have someone to whom they were accountable keeping them on deadline. So that's something I really figured out with Naturally Sweet and Gluten-Free, that I could write and do an entire book in less than 6 months. And if that's something that you're struggling with, then that's what a book coach is for. A book coach keeps you accountable, sets those deadlines for you, and then asks for that material so that you can be sure you need to get it done on time. And like I said, you would be surprised at how much you actually can get done in a shorter period of time than you think. This whole book was done fairly quickly because about midway through, I was actually approached by a different publisher to write another book. That's the story for part 4. I'm going to talk about that book in part 4. But for now, that's how this book came to be. And this book also did very well. It was #1 on Amazon in its category. And I earned what they call earning back the advance. So you need to sell enough books to earn back your advance before you start getting more royalty checks. I earned back the advance within 6 months. And this book was very popular at the time that it came out. So, and I believe it's still in print too. I'm not sure actually, because this one was from 2013. So that's just something to keep in mind, that you never know what you can do until you need to. I hope that helps. I hope that helps you to think about how much you can get written, even when you think you can't, if you actually have accountability. If you're looking for accountability, I have a writing group that I offer for free every single Tuesday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We meet up. We start writing. You can bring whatever writing project you like, or even if you don't have a writing project, if you want to come and do some free writing, you're more than welcome to do that. We sit together in our Zoom room in silence and write. I know it sounds weird, but it actually works. And then I am offering free editing and feedback afterwards for those who would like to take advantage. This is an amazing deal to be able to have my work for free, because I normally charge fairly high prices for my one-on-one clients. But if you come to Write with Ricky, you're more than welcome to ask me to take a quick look at some part of your work, and I will provide feedback or editing right there on the spot. So it's Tuesdays at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. I'm going to put the link in the comments for you if you want to sign up. You'll get reminders every week with a link to join us. I would love to see you there. All right, everybody. Hope this was helpful. See you again next time.